episode 7 of the remake of Fist of the North Star. What did we think about it? The main thing I'm going to talk about concerning this episode is, of course, as you may guess it, the background of the Red Berets, right? As it's very different to what we get in the classic series. So, I already talked about how in the previous reaction video of this remake, how the things concerning their affiliation, let's say, to the Nanto, more precisely Shin, right? So I already talked about that, and I think we'll develop those a little in this video. But so the main difference is that they're not basically people under Shin's orders, let's say, but they're an independent guerrilla, and basically it's complicated, right? You get this, you see what happened in the past and how basically they got disrespected, and you got this story of those wicked people in power, and basically the colonel especially, let's say, represents this profile of fighters, people who dedicate their life for a noble cause, their whole life training very hard, putting their life in danger. Well, in general, I think that this whole thing is very good. Okay, so we didn't get this in the classic series. It's good. This is definitely the one good thing in this episode. It's good. And more precisely, let's break it down a little actually. You actually get this organic versus mechanic thing that we often talk about, right? Because those people in power, they compose this top-down structure, right? So they dominate. You do as we say, and so that's mechanic too. They use the nuclear bomb, whatever that was, right? And so they press that button, as they said in the episode, that no one should have ever pressed, and they cause the end of themselves. So that's the problem with such a mechanic top-down system. It's not organic, it's not really strong, it's not good. But now the colonel and those strong warriors, they trained for years and years, and even if they're disrespected, right, they're the ones who are going to come out as the survivors, and kind of like as good. That's organic. Slowly for years I train, you disrespect me now, later I'm going to be the one who's going to be, so that's when you go crazy though. I'm the one who's chosen by God. They were disrespecting me, so the colonel was going crazy, and when the war happened, that was the switch. He just, with the ones chosen by God, and that became a way to legitimate his wickedness. So that's very good, but a great power necessitates great responsibility. Here's the biggest problem in relation to that. It's that, well, doesn't then the colonel deserve a bit of consideration for that? I mean, he seems to have a very close, let's say, profile to Souther that we'll get later. And he got beaten with a compassionate technique, right? Because you see the past and you're like, well, before the colonel, we got Shin. And we talked about the fact that unfortunately we lose the whole absence of meaning and faith in the code of the Hokuto Shinken thing, and it seems that Kenshiro just wanted to save Yuria. By the way, we have a bit of confirmation of that in this episode too. We'll get to it. But then he buries Shin. Why? Because he loved the same woman. Okay, so you bury the dude who loved the woman that you loved, but not a guy who went through all of those horrible things? That seems a bit egotistical to me, or self-centered. It's like, he loved the woman I loved, so I'm going to bury him. But the colonel who went through all of that, well, you're going to die in the most horrible way we saw so far, by the way. So that's the problem. It's like in the classic series, it's true that we didn't have the whole... But here's the thing, though. So this background of the Red Berets God Army here, it's good, but I guess you couldn't have imagined something else in the classic series, right? In general, the whole theme... You have so many shows with these post-apocalyptic nuclear war theme, right? So it's people in power, they're just fat pigs, as they describe it, right? They cause the end of themselves and the strong people. But there's a bit of a problem too. It's like, yeah, that's maybe a bit complicated, because the Colonel says that the strong warriors survived thanks to their strength to the nuclear war. What do you mean exactly? It's like, your body was prepared to get a nuclear wave? Because Turkey comes to my mind then. So even Turkey couldn't. So do you mean you were strong enough to run and escape to, or maybe strategic calls? You knew where the bomb was going to fall, so you. That's a bit complicated too. I actually forgot about that. It just came back to my mind. But anyway, let's move on. So this theme, right, of the people in power being wicked, and then you'll have some people who are going to survive. You have it everywhere, and it's an obvious implicit, let's say, the implicit theme of Fist of the North Star. So it goes back again to the classic series being implicit and so stronger, but this remake being at least clearer. So good, we get a story, but then, as I said, a great power necessitates great responsibility. You put this good story, then you have to make the whole persistence, the whole coherence that goes with it. And that's how difficult it is, how exactly it is difficult to make a good story. It's not enough to just put something good. The rest has to follow. That's the difficult thing. And so, the Colonel deserved more consideration, in my opinion, than Shin. As much as he seems to be that as big of an antagonist as Shin so far. You got Shin, a big dude, and you got the Colonel, two dudes who practice the Nanto Second, because they're pretty independent, right? Which is also a bit of a pity, but maybe this will be too long to explain. But very shortly, very shortly, in the classic series, you have a very clear idea of the big antagonists, right? Shin. And then later, including the good dudes, Rei. Then you'll get 𝚎𝚅, Rao, Turkey. These are the big dudes. Then you get the debatable ones, as in Juggy. We talked about him too, so it's like, he's actually very interesting. He's a dude of the Hokuto. You could put him on this level, but hey. Then you get the intermediate ones, like the Colonel. Maybe hard to make out. Devil Rebirth. And then you get the Hidabu types, yeah. So you have a very clear idea of this, and typically you'd understand better the big antagonists, because they became so powerful and they would destroy everything around thanks to some good thing that they had, but then you have all the bad things. Essentially, okay? Now in this remake we get Shin. It was very quick. Now we have the Colonel. He seems to be as big of an, because you got his development, let's say, for 2 episodes, if you count it as a whole with the Red Beret. And then Shin right before. It's going very quickly, as I said it before, but I wonder how it's going to be later. Whether we're going to have this, because it seems to me that the Colonel was either, so far in this remake, represented as too big of an antagonist, pretty much to the level of Shin, with actually a better story, I would say. Or Shin wasn't put high enough. So later when we'll get Rao and so on, I don't know how long this remake is going to be, maybe if it's 50 episodes, for example, I fear that you may even forget about Shin. And you may go, oh yeah, there was that first dude who captured that woman, yeah? And that would be bad, So that's a bit of a problem too. But anyway, I have 2 other things to say. At some point, the Colonel asks Kenshiro, what is making you this strong? What purpose do you fight for? It's very interesting. And, well, the whole faith, protecting the code of the Hokuto Shinken. I miss that, bruh. I feel like we never hear this in this remake. What about tradition? What about transcendence goal? What about these? But Kenshiro's first answer is very deceiving, because he says nothing. Because he lost everything. Okay, I'm fine with that, but nothing. It's like, there you go. Confirmation that Kenshiro just wanted to get Yuria back. You don't have the whole spiritual transcendent thing. But then he says, I have no purpose, but I don't want to see the tears on the children's face, right? However he phrases that. And that's bad. sorry to say, as surprising as this may sound. Why? I shared quite recently a video. It's the 1 point series, episode 48. The keyword is death. Remember, Toki tells Kenshiro that the reason he can't beat Rao is because he couldn't kill Nin. So here's my question. What makes you stronger? Being very kind to the kids? You know, this love and fighting for the children, and that is essentially your purpose? Or being able to kill them, like Rao, right? Who's going to rule with terror? And so, if we get that again later, and well, it's the general theme that Kenshiro is too kind, and well, you almost lose it here. But he is, though. Kenshiro is definitely too kind, even in this remake. We talked about it before. And now we get the opposite. So I feel like we're progressively getting now, we're slowly getting contradictions. It's like, don't get me wrong, of course Kenshiro fights for the good, for children, right? So they're not killed and massacred. But you do that because it's your responsibility. You don't phrase it in a way that it's out of this kindness. It comes from me, you know, it's my beautiful heart. No, that's Kenshiro's flaw. That doesn't make you stronger. Because that's the question too. What purpose do you have that makes you stronger? That's a bit of a problem. And last thing that I want to mention, I'm doing this quickly because these videos are always too long. Last thing, but I really want to say this. I think this is the biggest problem of this episode. I really, whilst I was watching the episode, I went, what? I struggled with this one. Towards the end of the fight, right? It's like the Colonel is going crazy. Well, what happened? And Kenshiro tells him, the reason I won, Kenshiro won and the Colonel lost, is because the Colonel just practiced, right, his martial art for 20 to 30 years. That's what he says. If the subtitles said that and the original didn't say anything about 20, 30, then I should really change my website. Tell me, but I mean, he says you practice, like you trained as a fighter for 20 to 30 years. Okay, well, what about you, Kenshiro? I have been practicing the Hokuto Shinken since I was born. Sorry to ask, how old are you? I'm not going to get into this. This is very interesting, by the way, like age. We don't get a precise number of their ages, but there are theories you could think of. Anyway, I really want to talk about this later, but the most precise, in my opinion, guess, okay, of Kenshiro's age, in my opinion, would be 23. But yeah, he's around that age, yeah, like 20, 25, something like that. It's like, you practice for 20 years. But then he says, but it's a martial art that is transmitted for 1,800 years and it's passed down to one successor. So I have all. So he's making it come across. What happened? This fight was 1,800 years against 22. No, that's not the way it works. Like, could you imagine Kenshiro telling this to the other great Nanto warriors that he struggles a lot, that he may even lose? What about your first loss against Shin? Weren't you a Hokuto Shinken master yet? Did you have a different past there? No, that doesn't work. That definitely doesn't work. That's an argument for the Hokuto Shinken being superior to the martial arts. That's right. By the way, the Colonel seems older than him. It's like, you don't make it come across an experience thing. In the classic series, it doesn't say that the Colonel practiced, was a fighter, he had a fighting experience for like 20 to 30 years. It's that the Colonel learned all sorts of martial arts. So it's kind of like, you all know this guy in real life who goes, so I practiced 6 months of boxing, I'm a yellow belt in karate, I'm a blah 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 blue belt in taekwondo. You know this guy, right? He practiced a bit of everything, but you know, it's like it seems he's not disciplined enough to master one thing. So you've got that. He's very close to Amiibo, you know, the talent thing, the Colonel in the classic series. So that's good, because you're fake, I'm a real martial artist. But here, that's not what we got. And that also doesn't work. When I heard Kenshiro starting his thing, right, like you practice for 20 to 30 years, I was like, what are you going to say about yourself? And that was probably the biggest problem, as in really, it struck me as just nonsensical. Get all the rest. So again, one good thing, the past of the Red Berets, let's say, but then the whole rest, unfortunately, we will have many flaws. And let's see what we'll get in the rest of this remake.